The emergency council session was unlike any in the 3,000-year history of galactic civilization. For the first time, the crystal chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with fear instead of authority. The floating alien representatives spoke in hushed tones, their confidence shattered by reports from the Sol system. Counselor Vextron's 6 eyes were dim with exhaustion. He had not slept since receiving word of the Grand Fleet's destruction. The greatest military force in the galaxy had been crushed by a species they had dismissed as primitive savages just weeks before. The survivors' reports are consistent, he announced to the assembled council. The human fleet used technology we do not understand. Their ships could appear and disappear at will. Their weapons penetrated our strongest defenses. Their soldiers moved and fought like living machines. The insect representative Zakar clicked his mandibles nervously. How many ships did we lose? 4,823 vessels, Vextron replied quietly. The largest military defeat in recorded galactic history? Shocked silence filled the chamber. The aquatic counselor Merkella's tentacles had stopped moving entirely. The crystalline representatives flickered with distress. Even the massive rock beings seemed to shrink into themselves. What are they? Whispered Counselor Veolana. Our xenobiologists studied them for 50 years. They appeared to be a normal, carbon-based species with standard organic limitations. Our xenobiologists were wrong, Vextron admitted. The humans have somehow merged biological evolution with technological advancement. They have enhanced themselves beyond normal organic limits. Before anyone could respond, the chamber's main display activated without authorization. Admiral Morrison appeared on the screen, but he was not alone. Behind him stood a group of humans that made the council representatives uncomfortable. Just to look at, President Helen Rodriguez stepped forward. She wore a simple business suit, but her presence filled the chamber with an authority that made the ancient alien leaders feel small. Beside her stood General Mendez, Colonel Peterson, and Dr. Walsh. Each human looked calm and confident, as if they were attending a routine meeting instead of facing the most powerful government in the galaxy. Counselors, Rodriguez said politely. I believe we need to talk. Vextron found his voice. You have committed acts of war against the Galactic Council. You have destroyed our fleets and attacked our installations. What do you want? What we want, Rodriguez replied calmly, is for you to stop making decisions about humanity's future without consulting humanity. What we want is for you to understand that we are not your subjects or your subordinates. You are one species. Among 12, Zikar shrieked. You cannot dictate terms to the entire galaxy. Rodriguez smiled, and the expression was both pleasant and terrifying. Can't we?
Dr. Walsh.
Would you show our friends the current situation? Dr. Walsh activated a holographic display that filled the chamber, showed the galaxy from a perspective the Council had never seen before. Human colonies, stations, and outposts were scattered across hundreds of star systems. Trade routes, communication networks, and resource extraction operations formed a web of human influence that spanned half the galaxy. While you were focused on your established territories, Rodriguez explained, humanity was quietly expanding into regions you considered too dangerous or too difficult to colonize. We built settlements in asteroid fields, on planets with hostile atmospheres, in systems with unstable stars. We went places other species feared to go. Displays zoomed in on specific regions. Human cities thrived in conditions that would kill most Council species. Human ships operated in areas of space where alien vessels couldn't survive. Human colonies extracted resources from worlds that others had written off as worthless. Now control more territory than any single Council species, General Mendez added. We have more ships, more colonies, more people, and more resources than most of your member worlds combined. Impossible, breathed Merkella. Our surveys showed limited human expansion. Your surveys saw what we wanted you to see, Colonel Peterson said cheerfully. We've been very good at staying invisible when we needed to. Vextron's mind raced as he processed the implications. The Council had been ruling a galaxy where the most powerful single species was one they had tried to enslave. Do you propose? We propose dissolving the Galactic Council, Admiral Morrison said simply. The chamber erupted in outrage. Every council representative began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in panic and fury. The idea of dissolving their government was unthinkable. The council had ruled for 3 millennia. It was the foundation of galactic civilization. Rodriguez raised her hand, and somehow the gesture commanded silence. The council has outlived its usefulness. It was created to manage a small group of cooperative species in a limited region of space. But the galaxy has grown beyond your ability to govern it effectively. You cannot be serious, Vextron said. Without the council, there would be chaos. Wars between species, territorial disputes, trade conflicts. Only if you assume that conflict is the natural state of interspecies relations, Dr. Walsh replied. Humans have a different perspective. We believe in cooperation between equals, not domination by superiors. The display changed again, showing a new star map. This one depicted a different kind of galactic organization. Instead of council territories controlled from Nexus Prime, it showed autonomous regions governed by the species that lived there. Trade agreements between equals, defense, pacts based on mutual benefit, exploration missions where different species contributed their unique strengths. We call it the Galactic Federation, Rodriguez explained. Every species gets an equal voice in decisions that affect them. No species rules over others. No species gets classified as subordinate or superior. And if we refuse? Asked Zikar. Rodriguez's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Then you'll discover what humanity is truly capable of, when we stop being polite. The threat hung in the air like poison. Every council member understood the implication. The humans had destroyed the Grand Fleet while holding back their full capabilities. If they unleashed everything they had developed in secret, no force in the galaxy could stop them. However, Rodriguez continued in a more pleasant tone. We would prefer cooperation. Humans work better with partners than with subjects. We've learned that the galaxy is a dangerous place, and we're stronger when we work together. General Mendez activated another display. We're facing threats that make our little disagreement seem trivial, or hostile species beyond the galactic rim. There are cosmic phenomena that could destroy entire star systems. There are problems that require the combined knowledge and resources of multiple species to solve. We need each other, Admiral Morrison added, but we need to work as equals, not as masters and servants. The council representatives looked at each other uncertainly. The old order was crumbling around them, but the alternative the humans offered was unlike anything they had imagined. Counselor Merkella spoke first. What role would former council species play in this federation? The same role as everyone else, Rodriguez replied. Cool members with equal voices. Your experience in government would be valuable in helping establish the new system. And what about our territories? Our established colonies? They remain yours, Colonel Peterson assured her. We're not interested in conquest or occupation. We just want to ensure that no species gets to make decisions for other species without their consent. Vexthron studied the human faces on the display. These creatures had appeared in galactic civilization as humble traders and explorers. In just 50 years, they had become the most powerful force the galaxy had ever known. Now, they were offering partnership instead of demanding submission. How do we know you won't become the same kind of oppressive force the Council was? He asked. Rodriguez laughed, and the sound was genuinely amused. Because humans have never been good at taking orders, and we're not interested in giving them. Either we believe in organized chaos, not rigid hierarchy. What does that mean? It means we prefer a system where everyone argues loudly about decisions instead of one where someone makes decisions in silence, General Mendez explained. It's messier, but it's more honest. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 8 of the 12 council species agreed to dissolve their government and join the proposed Galactic Federation. The others asked for time to consider, which the humans granted. 3 months later, the last meeting of the Galactic Council officially ended 3,000 years of alien rule. The first meeting of the Galactic Federation began the next day, with humanity taking its place as an equal member among dozens of species. Years later, historians would mark this as the moment when galactic civilization truly began. The age of species ruling other species was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because an arrogant council made the mistake of trying to enslave the one species in the galaxy that had fought its way to the top of its own world through pure determination and refusal to accept defeat. The humans had kept their promise. When cornered, they didn't just survive, they evolved. And they made sure the galaxy evolved with them. The massive doors continued to open with a sound like thunder. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at the entrance. They had all heard the human voice on the communication system, but none of them believed humans could actually be here. The council chamber was hidden in the center of the galaxy, protected by shields and weapons that had kept it safe for thousands of years. Then they saw them. 4 figures walked through the doorway, and they were definitely human. They were smaller than most species in the chamber, but they moved with confidence. They wore dark blue uniforms with silver markings. Their faces were calm, almost relaxed, as if walking into the most powerful government in the galaxy was something they did every day. The first human was a man with gray hair and steady eyes. He walked in front of the group like a leader. Behind him came a woman with short brown hair and alert eyes that seemed to notice everything. Next was a man with tools hanging from his belt and grease stains on his hands. Last was a woman carrying a small bag and what looked like recording equipment. Ambassador Zektar stood frozen at the podium. His forearms hung at his sides as he stared at the humans. His purple skin had turned a darker shade, which meant he was either very angry or very scared. Both. Impossible, whispered Vorthok, her golden scales rattling with shock. The guards would have arrested them. How did they get past everything? The lead human stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around. He seemed to be studying the room, taking note of where everyone sat and how the chamber was built. Then he smiled and spoke in a clear, strong voice. I am Admiral Ryan Carter, of the United Earth Fleet. These are my colleagues. Commander Amy Foster, Chief Engineer Kevin Walsh, Diplomatic Attach Michelle Grant. We apologize for interrupting your meeting, but we heard you were talking about us. High Counselor Thexian coiled her massive body tighter, her ancient eyes fixed on the humans with a mixture of fear and fury. How did you find this place? Its location is one of the most closely guarded secrets in the galaxy. Admiral Carter's smile grew wider. We have been watching you for quite some time. Did you really think we would not notice when ships started following our vessels? Or when strange signals appeared near our colonies? Or when merchants asked very specific questions about our military? Commander Foster stepped forward. She pulled out a small device that looked like a flat rectangle with lights on it. We detected your surveillance drones in our outer systems about 8 months ago. They were good, but not perfect. Once we found one, we found them all. The chamber erupted. In shocked voices, every species was talking at once, making their various sounds of disbelief. The granite people rumbled like earthquakes. The ethereals flashed bright colors. The cactus people rustled their needles loudly. Engineer Walsh scratched his head and grinned. Your stealth technology is really impressive. I mean really impressive. But it has one small problem. It creates a tiny ripple in space-time that our sensors can pick up. Once we figured out what to look for, following your ships became pretty easy. Ambassador Zektar finally found his voice. You followed our ships here? To the council chamber? Not just followed, said Commander Foster. We mapped your entire route. We know where your ships refuel. We know where your crews rest. We know which asteroids you use for navigation. We have been studying your whole operation. The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. Their most advanced technology, their most secret methods, their most protected location had all been discovered by humans. The species they thought was primitive and weak had been watching them the whole time. Diplomatic Attach Michelle Grant opened her bag and pulled out what looked like a small computer. We have also been listening to your communications. Your encryption was interesting, but our computers broke it in about 3 days. We know about your trade agreements, your military movements, and your political discussions. 3 days, gasped Crystal Wing, her icy body cracking with shock. Our encryption has protected council communications for over 2,000 years. The greatest minds in the galaxy created that code. Engineer Walsh shrugged. Yeah, it was pretty complex. But complexity is not the same as security. Your code was based on mathematical patterns. Our computers are really good at finding patterns. Once they found the pattern, breaking the rest was just a matter of time. Admiral Carter walked closer to the podium where Zektar still stood. We know about today's vote. We know about your plans to contain humanity. We know about the trade, restrictions, and the military blockades you want to set up. That is why we are here. The humans had not just found the council. They had not just broken through the security. They had been spying on the galaxy's most powerful government for months. Every secret meeting, every private discussion, every classified plan had been watched by human eyes. Whisperwine floated higher above her seat, her ghostly form shimmering with worry. If you have been watching us, then you know we voted to limit your expansion. You know we decided you were too dangerous to be allowed to grow freely. Commander Foster looked up at the floating alien. We know what you decided, but we also know something else. We know that you are afraid. You're afraid because we do not follow your rules. You are afraid because we are different. You are afraid because we are changing things. And you should be afraid, added Engineer Walsh cheerfully, but not for the reasons you think. You should be afraid of staying the same while everything around you changes. You should be afraid of falling behind while others move forward. The chamber fell silent. The humans were not angry about the vote. They were not threatening anyone. They were just standing there, calm and confident, as if they held all the power in the room. Ambassador Thorn's pick rustled his needles nervously. What do you want from us? Why did you come here? Admiral Carter looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many aliens as possible. We came here because we believe in talking instead of fighting. Came here because we think this galaxy is big enough for everyone. We came here because we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves,
added Michelle Grant. We
will not be controlled. We will not be contained. We will not accept limits that we did not help create. We are here to offer you a choice. Aliens waited, afraid to hear what the choice might be. Commander Foster activated her device again. Suddenly, holographic images appeared in the air above the humans. The images showed star maps, trade routes, and data about human colonies. But they also showed something else. They showed alien ships working alongside human ships. They showed mixed crews on trading vessels. They showed cities where humans and aliens lived together. This is what we have been building, said Admiral Carter. Not a human empire, but a community. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not replacement, but partnership. The images changed to show technological developments. Medical advances that could help any species. Energy systems that worked on different types of worlds. Communication networks that connected distant planets. Engineer Walsh pointed at the displays. We have been sharing our technology with anyone who asks. The Centauri Federation now grows twice as much food as before. The Belmont Collective can talk to their deep space explorers in real time. The Tau Ceti Mining Guild has reduced their accidents by 90%. All of this happened while you were debating whether to control us, said Michelle Grant. All of this happened because we chose cooperation over domination. The chamber was completely quiet now. The aliens stared at the holographic displays, seeing a version of the galaxy they had never imagined. A galaxy where species worked together as equals instead of following ancient hierarchies. Admiral Carter's voice grew serious. You voted to contain us. But we are offering you something better. We are offering you the chance to grow with us, to build with us, to explore with us. The choice is yours. The humans stood waiting, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But somehow, they looked like the ones in control. The silence in the chamber stretched on for what felt like hours. The alien ambassadors stared at the holographic displays showing human achievements across the galaxy. Ships working together, cities where different species lived side by side, technology being shared freely. It was everything the Council claimed to support. But somehow the humans were actually doing it. Finally, High Counselor Vexian spoke. Her ancient voice carried the weight of 3,000 years. You speak of cooperation, but you ignore our laws. You build colonies without permission. You make treaties without approval. You act as if the council does not exist. Diplomatic. Attached Michelle Grant stepped forward. Her voice was respectful, but firm. We ignore laws we had no part in making. We build colonies because people need homes. Make treaties because neighbors should be friends. We act as if the council does not exist because for us, it did not exist until today. She paused and looked around the chamber. When humanity first reached the stars, we sent signals into space. We looked for other intelligent life. We hoped to find teachers, friends, maybe even family. But no one answered. We were alone in the dark, so we learned to make our own light. The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The council had known about humanity for decades, but they had chosen to watch and wait instead of making contact. They had treated humans like an experiment rather than potential equals. Admiral Carter activated his own display device. New images appeared in the air showing the history of human expansion. The first colony ships launching from Earth, the struggles to survive on harsh worlds, the gradual development of better technology, the slow process of making friends with other species. We did not set out to challenge anyone, Carter said. We just wanted to survive and grow. Every colony we built was a victory against the cold emptiness of space. Every friendship we made was a light in the darkness. Every problem we solved was a step toward a better future. Commander Foster pointed to specific images. Look at New Denver Colony. The planet was covered in poisonous swamps. The council had marked it as uninhabitable. But the colonists worked with the local fungus creatures to clean the water. Now it is one of the most beautiful worlds in the sector. The image changed to show a planet with crystal-clear lakes and green forests. Strange mushroom-like beings worked alongside humans in gardens and workshops. Children of both species played together near sparkling streams. Or look at Harmony Station, Foster continued. It was built in an asteroid field that everyone said was too dangerous for permanent settlement. But the rock miners from Kepler 442 needed a place to rest and trade. So we built one together. Now it is the busiest trading post in 3 star systems. The new image showed a massive space station carved into a huge asteroid. Ships from dozens of different species docked at its ports. Markets buzzed with activity as creatures of all shapes and sizes bought and sold goods. Engineer. Walsh grinned and scratched his head. The funny thing is, we never planned to build an empire. We just kept running into problems and fixing them. When we fixed one problem, it usually created new opportunities. When we took those opportunities, we met new people. We found new problems to solve. Ambassador Zektar's purple skin had returned to its normal color, but his forearms were crossed tightly. You make it sound simple, but expansion always leads to conflict. Species fight over resources. They compete for the best planets. They try to dominate each other. That is why we have rules. Michelle Grant nodded. You are right. Expansion can lead to conflict, but it does not have to. The key is making sure everyone benefits. When we establish a new colony, we look for ways to help our neighbors too. When we develop new technology, we share it. When we find new resources, we make sure there is enough for everyone. She activated another display. This one showed economic data, population statistics, and resource distribution across human space. In the past 50 years, every system that borders human space has seen improvements. Better trade routes, new technologies, expanded markets, reduced conflicts. We grow by lifting others up, not by pushing them down. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversations as aliens discussed what they were seeing. Some seemed interested, others worried. A few looked genuinely excited for the first time in centuries. Whisperwind floated down closer to the humans. Form shimmered with curiosity. Your approach is interesting, but what happens when you encounter a species that does not want to cooperate? What happens when you find enemies instead of friends? Commander Foster's expression grew serious. We have encountered hostile species, pirates who attack our ships, fanatics who hate all other forms of life, conquerors who want to enslave everyone they meet. We defend ourselves when we must, but we always try to find peaceful solutions first," Admiral Carter added 3 years ago. "We had a major conflict with the raider clans from the Outer Rim. They were attacking our colonies and capturing our people. The Council's response was to declare the entire region off-limits and abandon everyone there." The aliens looked uncomfortable. They remembered that decision. "It had been easier to write off the Outer Rim than to deal with the raiders. But we did not abandon our people," Carter continued. "We organized the surviving colonies into a defense network, shared our military technology with everyone who was willing to fight. We turned victims into protectors." The raider clans still exist, but they no longer control the Outer Rim. Engineer Walsh pulled up technical diagrams. "We also figured out why the raiders were so aggressive. Their homeworlds were dying from pollution and resource depletion. They were not evil, just desperate. So we offered them a deal. Help us clean up their worlds in exchange for access to cleaner technology and better planets." The display showed before and after images of raider worlds. Polluted wastelands transformed into livable environments. Desperate warriors becoming productive citizens. Former enemies working together on construction projects. "Half the raider clans accepted our offer," Walsh continued. "The other half thought we were trying to trick them. When they saw their former brothers living better lives, more of them started to change their minds. Violence decreased by 80% in just 2 years. Ambassador Vorthek's golden scales had brightened with interest. He turned enemies into allies by solving their problems instead of defeating them. That is not how warfare usually works." Michelle Grant smiled. "That is because we do not see warfare as the goal. We see it as a failure. Every time we have to fight, it means we failed to find a better solution. Every time we have to kill, it means we failed to communicate. Every time we have to destroy, it means we failed to build something better." The chamber fell quiet again. The Council had spent thousands of years maintaining peace through strength and control. They had prevented wars by preventing change. They had maintained stability by limiting growth. But the humans were suggesting a completely different approach. Rockfall. The massive granite ambassador spoke in his grinding stone voice. "Your methods are admirable, but they require trust. How do you know that the species you help will not turn against you later? How do you know that the technology you share will not be used as weapons?" Admiral Carter looked directly at the stone. "Creature, we do not know. Trust is always a risk. But we have learned something important. The best way to prevent betrayal is to make sure everyone benefits from cooperation. When everyone wins, no one needs to fight." Commander Foster activated a final display. This one showed the current state of human space and the areas around it. Trade networks connecting dozens of species. Research projects involving hundreds of scientists from different worlds. Defense agreements that protected everyone equally. "This is what we have built in 200 years, Foster said. Not through conquest or control, but through cooperation and trust. We are not asking you to abandon your system overnight. We are asking you to consider whether there might be a better way." The humans stood quietly, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But their message was clear. They were not just asking for permission to continue existing. They were offering to help everyone build a better future. The council chamber remained silent as the humans finished their presentation. The alien ambassadors sat in their seats, staring at the holographic displays that showed a galaxy very different from the one they thought they knew. Some looked confused, others worried, and a few seemed almost hopeful. High Counselor Thexian slowly uncoiled her massive serpent body. Her ancient eyes moved from one human to another, studying their faces. "You speak of cooperation and trust, but you have violated our most sacred laws. You have expanded without permission. You've built colonies in forbidden zones. You've made treaties with species we have not approved." Admiral Carter stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We have broken laws we never agreed to follow. We have expanded into empty space that hurt no one. We've built homes on worlds that no one else wanted. We've made friends with neighbors who were ignored by this council." The Admiral paused and looked around the chamber. "When humanity first reached the stars, we sent messages asking for contact. We waited for answers. We hoped for guidance. But the only response we received was silence. So we made our own rules, our own alliances, our own future. Ambassador. Sectorus' forearms gestured angrily. Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Our system works. We have prevented wars that would have destroyed entire species. We have kept the galaxy stable and secure. Commander Foster pulled up new data on her display device. Your system has prevented some wars, but it has also prevented progress. Look at these statistics. The average council member species has not developed new technology in over 500 years. Most have not built new colonies in twice that long. You have created peace through stagnation. The holographic display showed charts comparing different species over time. The council members' technological advancement had flatlined centuries ago. Their populations had barely grown. Their territories had remained the same size for generations. Now, look at the species that have worked with humanity, Foster continued. The display changed to show dramatic improvements in technology, population, and territorial expansion among human allies. The Centauri Federation has doubled their agricultural output. The Belmont Collective has established 12 new research stations. The Tau Ceti Mining Guild has expanded to 4 new systems. Engineer Walsh pointed to specific examples. The Centauri were facing food shortages because their old farming methods were not efficient enough. We shared our vertical farming technology with them. Now they grow more food than they need and sell the surplus to their neighbors. The display showed massive farming towers reaching toward the sky, filled with crops that grew in carefully controlled environments. Centauri workers and human technicians worked side by side, tending the plants and managing the systems. The Belmont Collective wanted to explore the Galactic Rim, but their communication technology could not reach that far, Walsh continued. We helped them build quantum communication networks. Now they can talk to their explorers instantly across thousands of light years. The image changed to show sleek research vessels traveling to distant stars, staying in constant contact with their homeworlds through invisible networks of quantum signals. Diplomatic attaché Michelle Grant spoke up. The council system worked. When the galaxy was young and species were still learning to work together, but times have changed. The galaxy has grown. New challenges require new solutions. She activated her own display, showing the current state of the galaxy. Look at the problems facing us today. Climate change on dozens of worlds, resource depletion in the core systems, pirates in the outer rim, diseases that spread across species barriers, ancient technologies breaking down. These problems cannot be solved by maintaining the status quo. The chamber erupted in discussions as aliens talked among themselves. Some spoke in their native languages, others used universal translators. The sounds of clicking, buzzing, rumbling, and whistling filled the air. Ambassador Vorthok raised her long neck above the noise. The humans claim they can solve these problems, but what proof do we have? What guarantee do we have that there? Methods will not cause even greater problems. Admiral Carter smiled. We do not ask you to take our word for it. We ask you to look at the evidence. Every world that has worked with humanity has improved. Every species that has accepted our partnership has prospered. Every problem we have tackled together has been solved. Commander Foster brought up a detailed analysis of the Kepler plague, a disease that had threatened to wipe out 3 different species 2 years earlier. The Council's response was to quarantine the affected systems and wait for the plague to burn itself out. Millions would have died. The display showed the affected worlds isolated and abandoned, their populations slowly dying from the unstoppable disease. But we had a different idea, Foster continued. We gathered the best medical minds from every species, including the affected ones. We shared all our research freely. We worked together to understand the disease and develop treatments. Image changed to show research stations where scientists from dozens of species worked together. They shared equipment, compared notes, and tested theories. Human doctors worked alongside alien healers, combining different approaches to medicine. We stopped the plague in 6 months, Foster said. Not only did we save the affected populations, but we also developed new medical techniques that have prevented similar outbreaks elsewhere. Engineer Walsh scratched his head and grinned. The funny thing is, the solution came from combining human medical knowledge with ethereal energy healing and granite mineral therapy. None of us could have solved it alone, but together we found the answer. The chamber had grown quiet again. The aliens were beginning to understand that the humans were not just talking about cooperation in theory. They were showing practical results from working together. Whisperwind floated closer to the humans. Your achievements are impressive, but change is dangerous. What happens if your cooperative approach fails? What happens if trust breaks down? What happens if species start fighting over resources or territory? Michelle Grant nodded seriously. Those are valid concerns. Cooperation is not perfect. Trust can be broken. Conflicts can arise. But we have learned that problems are easier to solve when everyone works together to solve them. She brought up examples of disputes that had been resolved through human mediation. Last year, the Hive Collective and the Tree Shepherds nearly went to war over mining rights in the Proxima system. Council's solution was to divide the system between them, which satisfied no one. The display showed the contested system with artificial boundaries drawn through space and unhappy species. On both sides, when they asked for our help, we suggested a different approach, Grant continued. Instead of dividing the system, we helped them find ways to share it. The Hive Collective needed the metallic asteroids for their technology. The Tree Shepherds needed the gas giants' moons for their forests. There was no real conflict. Image changed to show both species working together in the same system. Hive ships mined asteroids while Tree Shepherd vessels cultivated the moons. Trade stations facilitated exchanges between the two groups. Now they are partners instead of enemies, Grant concluded. The Hive Collective has the best metals in the galaxy, and the Tree Shepherds have expanded their forests to 12 new worlds. Both species are happier and more prosperous than they were before. Ambassador Thornspick rustled his needles thoughtfully. Your examples are convincing, but implementation would be difficult. The council system has existed for thousands of years. Our laws, our traditions, our whole way of life is built around it. Change would be chaos. Admiral Carter's expression grew serious. We are not asking you to abandon your system immediately. We are proposing a trial period. Give us 10 years to prove that our approach works. Allow willing species to participate in cooperative projects. Let us show you what we can accomplish together. The humans stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But their proposal was reasonable, their evidence was compelling, and their offer was genuine. The council faced a choice that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The debate that followed was unlike anything the council had seen in centuries. Ambassadors who had not spoken passionately about anything in decades suddenly found their voices. Ancient allies argued with each other. Long-standing enemies found themselves agreeing on points they never thought they would share. Ambassador Zektar paced back and forth on his four legs, his purple skin changing shades as his emotions shifted. This is madness. We cannot simply throw away 10,000 years of tradition because some young species claims to have better ideas. The old ways work. They have kept the peace. But Ambassador Crystalwing disagreed, her icy body crackling with excitement. The old ways have kept us frozen in place. My people have not built anything new in 800 years. We've been so focused on maintaining stability that we forgot how to grow. Rockfall, the massive granite ambassador, rumbled in his deep stone voice. The humans have shown us something we had forgotten. They have shown us that stability without progress is just slow death. The chamber filled with arguments as species took sides. Some supported the traditional council approach. Others were intrigued by the human proposal. Still others wanted to find a middle ground between the two systems. High Counselor Thexian called for order, but the debates continued. Finally, she announced a recess so that the ambassadors could discuss the matter privately with their advisors and their home governments. During the break, something unexpected happened. Small groups of aliens began approaching the human delegation. They spoke quietly, away from the main assembly, asking questions and sharing concerns. The first to approach was Ambassador Kethvalium of the Altarians, a crystalline being whose body sparkled with inner light. He spoke with Engineer Walsh about fusion technology and energy distribution. His people had been struggling with power shortages for decades, but council regulations prevented them from developing new energy sources. "Your fusion designs are elegant," Kethvalium said, his voice like wind chimes. "They could solve our energy crisis within 5 years, but the council would need to approve any new technology before we could implement it. The approval process usually takes decades." Walsh scratched his head and smiled. "Well, that is one of the problems we are trying to fix. Species work together directly. They would not need to wait for approval to help each other. They could just help." Soon, other ambassadors joined the conversation. The Draconian representative asked Admiral Carter about military cooperation and defense strategies. Her people were proud warriors, but they had been forced to follow council military, a doctrine that was centuries out of date. "Your approach to the raider problem was brilliant," she said, her scaled face showing genuine respect. "You turned enemies into allies by addressing the root cause of their aggression. Our military commanders have been studying your tactics." Carter nodded. "We would be happy to share our experiences. War should always be the last option, but when it is necessary, it should be fought smart, not just hard." Commander Foster found herself surrounded by ambassadors from smaller species who felt overlooked by the council's focus on major powers. The representative from the quantum mice, tiny beings who lived in the spaces between atoms, was particularly interested in communication technology. "The council barely acknowledges our existence," squeaked the tiny ambassador. "But your people have found ways to detect and communicate with us. You treat us as equals despite our size." Foster knelt down to be closer to the microscopic ambassador. "Size does not determine worth. Every species has something valuable to contribute. The trick is finding ways to work together despite our differences." Diplomatic attaché Michelle Grant spoke with ambassadors from worlds facing environmental problems. Climate change, pollution, and resource depletion were affecting dozens of species, but council regulations made it difficult to implement solutions quickly. "The council requires environmental impact studies that take years to complete," explained Ambassador Leaf Whisper of the plant people. "By the time we get approval for solutions, the problems have grown much worse." Grant pulled up data on human environmental projects. "We face similar problems on Earth in our early colonies. Key is acting quickly with proven solutions while continuing to research better ones. We cannot let perfect be the enemy of good." As the conversations continued, it became clear that many species were frustrated with the current system. They wanted to grow, to explore, to solve problems, and to build better lives for their people. But the council's focus on stability and control had made change nearly impossible. When the session resumed, the atmosphere in the chamber had shifted. High Counselor Thekshan could sense the change, and it worried her. "We have heard the human proposal," she said.
Now we must decide
How to respond. Ambassador Zektar spoke first, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "The Varanian Empire maintains that the current system should be preserved. Change is dangerous. The risks are too great." But this time, many ambassadors disagreed openly. Crystal Wing spoke for the Ice People. "We have been afraid of change for so long that we have forgotten how to live. The humans offer us a chance to remember." Kethvalium sparkled brighter as he addressed the assembly. "My people face energy shortages that threaten our civilization. The council system offers us studies and committees and regulations. The humans offer us solutions." The small ambassador of the quantum mice somehow made her tiny voice heard throughout the chamber. For too long, the council has focused on the loudest voices and the largest species. The humans have shown us that everyone matters, no matter how small. One by one, ambassadors spoke about their frustrations with the current system and their hopes for the human proposal. Not all were convinced, but many were willing to try something new. Whisperwind floated high above the assembly. "Frightening, but stagnation is death. Perhaps it is time to choose growth over safety." The debate continued for hours. Some species worried about losing their privileged positions in the current system. Others feared that cooperation would lead to chaos. But more and more ambassadors spoke about the need for progress and the potential benefits of working together. Finally, High Counselor Vexian called for the vote. The question before us is whether to accept the human proposal for a 10-year trial period of cooperative development. Each species will cast one vote. The voting process was slow and tense. Each ambassador had to consider not just their own feelings, but the wishes of their home governments and the future of their people. The Varanians voted against the proposal. The Calaxians voted in favor. The Granite people voted in favor. The Ice people voted in favor. The Ethereals voted against. The Draconians voted in favor. As the votes were counted, it became clear that the decision would be very close. Species that had been allies for centuries found themselves on opposite sides. New alliances formed based on shared hopes for the future rather than shared fears of change. When the final vote was tallied, the result was announced. 24 species voted in favor of the human proposal, 21 voted against, and 2 abstained. The margin was narrow, but it was enough. High Counselor Vexian announced the result with a heavy voice. The Council has voted to accept the human proposal for a trial period of cooperative development. The galaxy will try a new path. Admiral Carter stepped forward. We understand the difficulty of this decision. Change is never easy, but we believe it is necessary for growth. We look forward to working with all species to build a better future for everyone. As the humans prepared to leave the chamber, Ambassador Zektar approached Admiral Carter. His purple skin had faded to a lighter shade, showing uncertainty rather than anger. You have changed everything, he said quietly. I hope you understand the responsibility that comes with that. Carter looked the alien ambassador in the eyes. We do understand, and we are ready for it. But we will not carry this responsibility alone. We will share it with everyone who chooses to work with us. The humans walked out of the council chamber, the same way they had walked in, calmly and confidently. But now they walked out as partners in shaping the galaxies. Future rather than subjects to be controlled, the council had voted to control humanity, but humanity had chosen to transform. The council instead, the age of cooperation had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.